What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Before we get into this week's podcast, I would love it if you all went and hit subscribe and gave us a review after you finish listening. It just helps the podcast keep going. And the more people subscribing, the better it is for us. So podcast time. Cristiana Votta. Cristiana has been a good friend of mine for a long time now. I've known her for a while. We first met in New York at a club night that she worked at, and we've just kind of kept in touch ever since. Now she is one of the most successful managers in electronic dance music. It's mad to say, I've seen her work so hard over the years, and is in this industry you have to work very hard to get anywhere, but she is literally the hardest working person I've ever met. And the way she works with her artist and the way she is as a person is personally what I feel anyone that wants to aspire to be a manager should be doing. Or not should be doing, could maybe take a leaf out of her book for doing. She manages Themba, she manages Black Coffee, and she manages a couple of other artists. We'll get into that in the podcast. So she's a beautiful human being, and I love talking to her. We've been trying to do this podcast with her since I started the podcast. So I'm really happy to have her on. So I'm going to stop blabbering on, and I'm going to let you guys listen. So without further ado, Cristiana Votta. You don't realize how long I've wanted to do this podcast.
I wasn't allowed.
And you've been me off for so many years.
Here we are.
And
Here
now
we
we're
are
doing
in
it.
the flesh.
Chrissy, how's it going? You good?
All good here in sunny New York.
Yeah, I miss that place so much. I was there a couple of weeks ago when you're never there when I'm there.
I know, always.
Never. Were you?
When are you back, or you don't know yet?
Electric Zoo, September.
Ooh, I might be here. Let's see. Hopefully.
Max coming, of course.
Of course. You could never miss one.
Yeah, man. How's life anyway? How's life?
All good. Just, I mean, it's that time of year where I forget what end is up, but it's all positive, you know, it's, I can't complain.
Yeah, definitely.
How could you?
I know, right? We have a great life. We're super lucky.
Yeah, for sure. It's not all the glitz and glam, but
that's the thing. A lot of people think it is, but especially your life, like you have to deal with the glitz and glam. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but you're somebody that has to deal with the artist as a manager. I want to, first of all, I want to go back right to the beginning with you, because I think we met at Bang On.
Yep, exactly.
You were working at Bang On. When was that the first kind of job in the industry?
So before that, I went to school for journalism. So I started blogging and covering events. So that was kind of my first foot in the door. But Bang On was my first official job.
Yeah.
Where I actually got a paycheck rather than just guest list.
I love this industry, like how everyone does something for free right at the beginning. You have to.
Oh yeah.
There's no other industry like that though, right?
No, it's true. And it's like, just networking and who you can meet, who you can get your face in front of. And there's no other industry like it. That's for sure.
But I think it's really important that I think like people are trying to, I get the vibe that people are trying to change that and that everyone should be paid, et cetera, which I fully believe everyone should be paid. But
of course.
But I also feel like there's a point where like you have to do the learning part and you have to go through the trenches to get to the point where you're actually even worth something to get paid. And I don't know, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to earn your stripes. You know, I always say this, and it's actually something that I love about this industry the most. Every day you're learning. You know, there's no one in this industry that knows everything. There's no expert, you know, it's evolving every day. I mean, just looking back, even like the last 10 years, the way streaming has come in and taken over, you know, what's next? So I feel like, yeah, you have to learn and start somewhere. And for me, I think it was a humbling thing to start like that, you know, and I never would have projected myself to be where I am today. But I'm also thankful for that, you know, because I've seen it all. I've worked every side of the business, and, you know, I know the hardships it comes with, but I've worked my way up there, and I feel like, I don't know, it's a rewarding thing to be able to say, like, you know, I did that.
Yeah. You're also one of the hardest working people I know. Like, you're always fucking working. And like, I remember going out for Thai with you in New York and like the shit you were going through. And I'm like, man, like, you're fucking working hard. And
I'm a workaholic.
Yeah, you clearly, well, you're from New York, right?
Yep.
It's kind of in your blood. You have to be, right?
The New York hustle.
There's something about New York. Everybody especially that grows up in New York.
Oh yeah. You don't know anything else, you know?
Yeah.
When I go over to Ibiza for the summer, I'm like, all right, why is this taking so long? Even just the basic things like going out for dinner. Like, why am I here for 3 hours, you know?
Fucking Ibiza. It's like you say you're going to go for dinner at like 8, and you know that people are going to turn up at 9:30, 10.
Yeah, and it's impossible to go to bed before midnight on that island. I always say this, even if you're just having dinner, like 2 a.m. is like the normal bedtime. And here I'm a grandma, I'm in bed by like 10.
I love that though. There's something special about that, the other side of it though, right? The relaxed, I think, like when I go to Ibiza, and I never forget when I used to live there and I would be working at Space. And at that time, Ushuaia wasn't there. It was like a really shitty hotel. And next door to that, there was a like really cute family Spanishy restaurant. And I'd come out at like 2:00 in the morning for like a break to like go and have dinner. And there would be like families all eating, like all like grandparents, parents, kids. And you're like, this is fucking wild.
Yeah. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah. But there's something beautiful about it that I just don't think you get in the American culture so much. And definitely not in the UK. For sure.
Yeah. Especially now with all the craziness that just keeps coming at us. We often say, you know, we're ready to up and leave and head to that side of the pond, wherever it may be.
It's wild, especially what's going on at the moment. Fucking hell.
It's crazy. Sometimes I'm almost embarrassed to be an American, you know? I hate to say that publicly, but I just feel like the way we've held ourselves as a country and, you know, a lot of the things that the country is standing for now, it's shocking. It's 2022. Like, this is things you think about like 50 years ago, you know? How are we going backwards now?
I try to be optimistic about it because the way I try and look at it, which is like kind of a naive way to look at it, but it's like if I compare America to the UK, and I'm not saying the UK is perfect, but we have it pretty fucking good here. Like, I know anybody in the UK, everyone loves to moan here and complain, but we have it really fucking good. But the way I look at it is that like my parents' house is bigger than is older than America.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, America's, although it's so advanced in what it is, it's also has so many lessons to learn.
Totally.
And it's still so young. It's like a child going through puberty, and it still has to kind of go through all those mistakes that they in life and kind of get the old out and get the new in and change how countries are run. And I try to be optimistic. It's very hard to be optimistic when you're just hearing negative. But then I think if England was that young, what mistakes would we be going through?
Yeah, it's true.
But also, which sounds really weird, and people are probably going to hate me for saying this, America is still one of the best places to live in the world. which people won't agree with me. But if we compare it to 90% of the world.
Yeah. I mean, we take a lot for granted. That's for sure. A lot of the things that are just normal, you know, I see a lot of that too, especially working, you know, with some of my artists from South Africa, you know, hearing about their upbringing and the hardships they've gone through. It's things that, you know, I've never experienced as a person, and I can't relate. And it's shocking, really.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that makes it right for the decisions in America to have happened. But I think there does come a point where I can get caught up in my own little bubble and be like, this is life for me, and no, everyone else it's the same for everyone else. When it's not. Like even when I went to Johannesburg, like I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is like me moving to Detroit. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I forgot.
So like.
Culture shock.
Huge culture shock. Like it's wild. And I'm sure like you've been to some places on your travels. And you're just like, whoa, I'm so fucking lucky with what we have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So lucky. Just it's weird. That got deep really fucking quick.
You said we weren't going to.
I know. It got deep really quick. Oh well, life goes on. Let's go back to your career. I think people are going to be. I love talking to you about your career because your career is so interesting. So like, let's do a quick brief of what you do, very quickly, and then we can get into how it kind of got there. We started with Bang On, but I think people are probably wondering what the fuck you do. So what the fuck do you do?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I manage several artists, Black Coffee, Themba, Angelos. We're working to grow a roster. We actually launched our agency, Algeria Agency, back in 2020 after working together under a different entity for about 4 years. So Algeria is our baby and we're so proud of it. I work with, you know, the greatest artists. And I don't just say that because of their talent, just they're good people as well. They make it so easy for me. They make working a joy. You know, there's so many nightmares you hear. And I mean, I've worked with, you know, we've all had these experiences.
Oh dear.
Yeah. That's it.
It's pretty mad.
Oh, that's it. That sounds so simple. That's it.
you do a lot of things and you turn a lot of cogs. But how old are you?
28. I'm a baby.
You're a baby, which I knew, but like it's mad to think you're 28 years old and what you've achieved. And I know it's really without sounding condescending, because it's like age doesn't really matter, if you know what I mean. Ever since I've known you, you've fucking put the work in, and you've eventually got to where you're at now. And not many 28-year-olds can say that they managed one of the biggest artists in the world, and also you're the only manager in that sense, right? You are like the head of the manager, and I know you've kind of worked your way up through the ranks, but that's gone quick for you. It's really quick.
Yeah. Definitely. And like I said, too, I wouldn't have pictured myself here in this point in time, you know? I feel like all the things that we're achieving were far goals, you know, like dreams almost. Totally. And, you know, sitting here with the Grammy, I brought it outside.
Did you bring it?
I had to.
Let's see it. Wow.
Like this is everything, honestly. Like this was the most surreal moment. I don't know. I mean, there's no higher reward, I feel like, in what we do, and just sit there and win or not, you know, we were sitting there super anxious, whether we won, we didn't, the nomination was there. No one could take that from us. And, you know, Black Coffee, one of the most deserving humans on the planet. He also is one of the hardest workers, you know, and I think a lot of his energy, I feed off of that. And that's my fuel for the fire, you know, and he's super motivated, and as are all of the guys. They're always coming with new ideas and just trying to break boundaries, do something new, you know, not stay static. And I don't know. They just keep me on my toes.
No, I like that. But I think there's also comes a point of where you play your part in that as well. And I think a manager is another member of the team, and you just kind of mimic your artist's needs and goals and anything else in between. But you're also a huge part of why the artist is successful. And not saying that you're not successful because of the artist and the artist isn't successful because of you, but like it becomes a team.
Of course.
And
everything needs to work together.
Exactly. And we've all been in teams where they don't work together, and they can still be successful for a period of time, or for a period of time it does work, and then it kind of goes out and kind of it doesn't. Mm-hmm. At what point in your career were you like, I want to become a manager?
Honestly, I was back and forth. I mean, so I started, like I said, blogging.
Yeah.
So that was my first foot in the door. Then I did an internship with a company called the Volume Group, which doesn't exist anymore. But I worked with Claptone, Eagles and Butterflies, Hector, Josh Butler, a bunch of other artists. And that was kind of my first, view into the management world.
Yeah.
But I was just an intern, and I don't want to say I was getting bored, but I knew that I was destined to do more, and, was just very hungry. So then that's actually when I went to Bang On as well, then worked on the event side. And I think being on the event side made me realize, I don't want to be in a club till 6 a.m. every night. I'm a machine behind the computer on calls, I'm not the person. I mean, of course it comes with the territory. I'm in the club every week. You have to be, but I don't want to be on the road. I don't want to be, production manager. I think I just realized, my strong traits, and I'm a very organized person, a very driven person. So for me, it kind of just turned into a no-brainer. And, with the position, so when I was looking to leave Bang On, or, to evolve a bit more, I had actually gone to my friend Shauna, who manages the Martinez brothers, and had asked her for work. And, I was like, I know I don't have much experience, but I'm eager to learn. And she didn't have a space at the time, but she had connected me with my old boss, Lionel. Yeah. And from there, it just kind of took off.
Took on. But I guess learning to be a manager, because I think there's a lot of people out there that listen to this podcast, or just generally in life, that want to be in the music industry but don't want to be the artist, right? Or maybe they think that they can't be the artist. They don't have a creative bone in their body, so they're like, okay, how do we become? How do I still work in the industry but not as an artist? And there's so many of those jobs. Like, it's mad how many people are actually behind. There's more people behind the scenes than there is like in front.
Oh yeah.
Was there a point where you ever wanted to be an artist?
No way. I don't like the spotlight. I kind of like being behind the scenes and being like the silent sniper, if you will, Yeah. I'll never forget, actually, the first time Black Coffee played Coachella, I offered to go put his sticks into the CDJs so he didn't ruin his like big entry, and I regretted it immediately. I ran out. Everyone started screaming, shouting, thinking it was the next DJ. I remember turning into a tomato, like covering my face.
That's amazing.
So no, that is not a place for me.
I like that. And when you previously in the previous company, when you went going into that company, was it always on your mind to be like, I want to be a manager, or was it more so a process?
Not really, to be honest. And I feel like you'll never know.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of sounds weird, but so many people had been pushing me, start your own company, do your own thing.
I've told you so many times that as well.
You've been telling me for like 10 years now, and you amongst others. And I was always like, oh, I have more to learn. That was always the
answer.
The truth is, you're never actually ready.
Never.
You just need to take that leap of faith and run with it. And trust in yourself, trust your dopeness, trust, whatever's inside of you that's pushing. And that's really it. I mean, you're learning every day, like I said before, and there's no right time. There was no moment where I was like, I need to be a manager. Even up until 2 years ago when we started the company, you know, it was all like, all right, we're doing this and this is it. And it just flew.
Well, I think sometimes, isn't it, as well, it's like you see what you've got in front of you and what you can work with and see how you can kind of get an outcome from it and move forward from it. But I guess for you, 2 years ago, that was during the pandemic. So you're going into you're 26 at that time?
Yeah.
So you're 26 going into a company or starting your own company with Black Coffee and going, I'm going to have my own management company. What if you, I want to try and get a bit deeper onto the feelings, is like, how does that feel? And also, how does that feel, me saying that now as well?
It still feels surreal, honestly. You know, I feel like sometimes I wake up and I pinch myself. Like I feel like I'm living in a movie, especially the last year. It's just been a whirlwind of positive things getting thrown at us. Not thrown at us. We were working really hard, but it's all just coming together. You know, I say the stars aligned.
But it takes, how much hard work has it taken to get there?
Ask Adam, ask my fiance.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
He's always like, all right, remember to breathe, remember to eat. You know, I'm here, I exist.
Yeah.
Bless him.
But also he's doing his thing as well.
Yeah, no, it helps, you know, to have a partner that really understands the world you're coming from and the goals you're after, you know, because he believes in my dreams just as much as I do. Without that, I feel like none of this would be possible. And the same, you know, going back to that moment when we opened the company, you know, I remember getting the call from Black Coffee saying, you know, we're doing this. And I'm like, we? What do you mean we? Who's we?
Yeah.
And, you know, I still relive that moment in my mind sometimes, you know, because having an artist that, of course, is, you know, on the rise, at the top of his game, and just having his full trust and his belief, that meant more than anything. You know, that was the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm here where I belong and no more messing around.
Yeah, I think it gets real then, right?
Totally.
So I don't know if you can talk about this, and tell me if you can't, it's totally fine. But when Black Coffee called you, you didn't have a clue?
Oh, hold on.
They're trying to catch someone.
Helicopter.
The cops are about.
They already know what's coming. Oh, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. Sorry.
So when Black Coffee called you, did you have an idea that it was going to happen?
No.
Wow.
Also, we should include this.
Okay.
But no, I didn't. I really didn't. I mean, I knew there was a change coming, but I didn't know I would be a part of it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's big.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, again, it's just, you know, artists, they have a funny way of showing their appreciation. You know, you can get a thank you and a text and a hug when you see them, but you know, you're slaving over this thing 24/7. And I don't want to say underappreciated, because that's not it at all. I know the artists value everything we do, but sometimes you just need that like instant gratification.
Yeah.
And I feel like that moment was just that, you know, like everything that I had been working towards, it was just solidified then, you know, one, I believe in you. We're doing this.
No, I love that. And it's really interesting. I want to go more into that, where it's as a manager, because I can probably see it from as an artist point of view, where it's just always like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? Like, well done, we've done this. What's next?
Yeah.
How is that as a manager? Are you the same, or are you like, okay, let's sit back and evaluate this and kind of live with it for a little bit, and then we can be what's next? No.
The music industry doesn't stop for anyone. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like we walked off the stage at the Grammy and I'm like, all right, what's the next record we're releasing, you know?
It's so wild
But
it's so
you have
wild
to
that.
be forward thinking. I think the best managers are always 5 steps ahead. You know, you can't sit back and wait to see what everyone's doing around you. And actually, one of my colleagues, Sam, she always says, you know, the leader of the pack never looks behind, always straight ahead, never look to your left, to your right, behind. Just focus, keep your eye on the prize. And that's a motto I use every day now. You know, it's how do we advance? What's right for us? And always doing something different, you know, because I feel like it can become robotic at times, this industry. You know, it's like, all right, the release is here, the promo window's 2 weeks before, the tour is 6 months before, you know, but thinking outside the box, trying to reinvent things, it's what's kept us where we are, you know, and how we're evolving, all of the guys.
Well, I think there's no rules to this industry. And I think it's very easy for us to be formulaic and kind of make rules for ourselves. But if you want to put out a record every day, you can put out a record every day. If you want to put one record out a year, you can put one record out a year. If you want to do one show or if you want to do 100 shows, it's up to you. It's just down to you to make that whatever you plan to do work. When you're working with, I want to go to like a smaller artist and then go to a bigger artist or whatever. So if you're taking on a new artist, what do you look for in an artist?
For me, it's always an artist that's not just a DJ, not just a face, you know. They have to have something that speaks more than the music. You know, something that keeps me on my toes is these different projects we work on outside of the music space, you know. So whether it's the sync world, I mean, that's technically still music, but you know, different fashion deals, brand endorsements, whatever it may be. And I feel like, you know, the best artists, they can diversify themselves like that, and they're not just a strong presence behind the decks. You know, they can come, they can play, smash a performance, but they can also, you know, be the businessman or woman. They can also be the entrepreneur. They can wear many hats. So for me, that's how I always look at it, you know. And when there's artists knocking on the door, what is that wow factor, you know? What sets them aside from everyone else, especially now in 2022, you know, everyone's a DJ these days.
It's really interesting you say that, and that excites me listening to that as a mate of yours, because there's so many managers that I know, and there's so many artists that I know that only think they can do one thing, and only concentrate on one thing. And I think it's so important for anyone as a human being to be able to do multiple things.
Definitely. And it's about the legacy you want to leave behind. You know, I'm always saying that word to the guys, the legacy. You know, what happens in 10 years, 20 years when you don't want to be touring 6 days a week, you know,
and when you're not relevant.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
We all know there's so many artists that had, like, let's look at the old Chicago boys, right? Or old New York guy. Look at MK. Like we all know MK. He had a huge amount of success in his selling records in the 90s, and then had zero success up until like 10 years ago. And in between that time, like, you have one record that everyone knows. And I'm not diminishing that. But if you diversify, you have a lot more to keep talking about.
Definitely. And I think also the pandemic opened our eyes to that more too, you know, like, all right, you guys aren't touring. Where's the income? How are you going to feed your kids? You know, it's got to come from somewhere. You can't always just be on the road.
I guess, does it for you, is it nice to not always talk about music as well as a manager? If you're dealing with brand deals, if you're dealing with other things, it's like something else for you to go and learn. It's
cool. You know, there's that aspect. I'm learning every day, but I also love, you know, it keeps it fresh. You know, like I was saying before too, it does become very routine in this industry. So to be able to do something new, dive into new worlds and meeting so many different people, you know, I never thought I'd be in a meeting with, you know, Mike Amiri talking about custom suits or a company we want to start, or, you know, it's just things that they felt so distant. And I love when we're able to bridge our world with the outside world.
Yeah. But the thing is it's not really the outside world, right? It's like what you're talking about is still creative people, like fashion, which I know you've worked in the past with your artists. Like it's like the little sister or the big sister of the music industry. They all fit hand in hand. And it's amazing to me how many artists don't look at that as another side of their business.
Yeah, I mean, the best person, rest in peace, Virgil.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, music wasn't at the forefront for him, but he's the modern day Renaissance man, you know. He took on DJing, he took on music, he took on art, everything, you know, and he did it with grace and poise till his very last breath. And I feel like that opened a lot of eyes and doors for people. Even within the music industry too, you know, I feel like people are taking more risks. They're doing things outside of their comfort zone. Like, you know, going back to when we released the song with David Guetta, I remember people were saying, "What are you guys doing?"
I remember you texting me going,
"Commercial, yeah. Are you
crazy?" You text me going, "I'm not too sure what the fuck we're doing right now." But I love it.
Look, it's now the biggest tune Black Coffee's ever released, you know, and that was just taking a jump, doing something different. And that inspired the whole album that won a Grammy, that opened a door. Now you see Solomon collaborating with Jamie Foxx. You see Kind Music on Drake's album. You know, who would have thought? You know, these are things that seemed so foreign even just 4 or 5 years ago. And now I feel like everyone's eyes have opened, and there's no territory you can't touch.
No, I really like that. And I think it's a really important thing for people to hear, because it's very easy to get caught up on one record label, trying to sign to one record label and trying to support one artist or trying to headline one show or trying to do something. And I think there's a handful of artists that, and you manage one of them definitely with Black Coffee, that just does different things. And I think there comes is there a level where you have to get for those other things to kind of open the doors?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there's always room to jump into these other sectors. But you know, at the level, say Black Coffee is, maybe not, but I feel like there's always room, you know. Even with Themba now, he released his first studio album on Armada last year. It was a big success. It wasn't a pure dance music album. You know, I don't know if you listened at all, but it was.
No, I didn't know he released one.
I have to send it to you.
Yeah,
it's
please
amazing.
do.
But he took his African roots and he put his flavor on it and put a spin on things. And that opened so many doors, you know, because at the same time, we don't have to just make dance floor hits. 100%. We can make music that feels right, that feels good to them, that feels pure. So, I mean, and in terms of the other sectors, like we were saying, I feel like these types of things open those doors as well. You know, like we did a mini documentary around the album. A lot of artists wouldn't have done that, you know. It's just that release schedule and that's it. And I feel like there's so many things. Artists just can't get caught up in doing the norm, you know. No. Chase after whatever makes you happy, whatever fuels your fire.
And I think that's the thing, is it's very easy to like have a team where it's like, this is coming out, this we're spending this much money on the record, we need to keep it within these parameters because we don't know if the record's going to be successful, and we can't do anything too creative because we don't have the money or we don't want to spend the money. But I'm also like, fucking go and spend the money.
Yeah.
Go and
you have to invest in your own self.
Yeah, go and do something that like really makes you happy. And
you've always done this so well, you know, like when you went and started the label and then you started doing your merch thing, you're doing the podcast, like you're investing in your own career. Like, it's not like someone's telling you have to do this podcast, you know, you have to have a label, you know, you went out and did your thing. Like it's so cool. It's a lot of artists get caught up and
I think it comes down to eventually of just like getting to a point in your career where you don't necessarily fit in anywhere, or you don't want to fit in.
Yeah.
Because I think like, even let's look at the artists that you look after, right? Like none of them really fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
So they have to do their own thing.
Totally.
And I think it's very easy it's very, even for managers, even for agents, right? It's very easy for them to just go like, okay, I like Jamie Jones, I'm going to go get the whole Hot Creations roster. And then we can just do Paradise parties, we can do Hot Creations parties, easy, right? Mm-hmm. But I then find like the best agents and the best managers are the people that find artists that they can do so many other things with, and they can like build something.
Yeah, we're doing this right now with Themba. You know, he's starting his first residency in Ibiza this season. It's a new club. You know, there's a lot of growing pains.
Where's he going?
Club Chinois. So it's previously Heart.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they did a lot of renovations. There's a lot to improve on, but it's so exciting for us, you know, to really start from the ground up. I mean, we've done this with Black Coffee at High, and now it's one of the most successful nights on the island. And I mean, truth be told, there's no formula for it. It's bust your ass until the work's done.
How do you, I know we're skipping around a bit, but it's quite interesting because my manager used to be Black Coffee's agent. So you know Ryan pretty well as well. But how, obviously you have to be at a certain level to get a residency in Ibiza, especially at a venue like High. How, when that deal gets done, okay, where you're the resident at Ushuaia for whatever night it is, and then as a team, what's the next thing from that deal happening? Yeah, because there's so much pressure on that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny because I look back and where we started the residency at High and where we are now, it's night and day. Like even just looking at the artwork, you can tell we've never done this before, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So we go back, and I think our approach is very unique in that basically all that we do, we want to give back, especially, you know, to the African continent. So even just down to the artwork, you know, every year we commission a different artist. This year it's a girl from South Africa, Nene. And, you know, like it's these small details that make all the difference, you know, because you can go, you can play, you can have the same lineup as every club, you can do a generic artwork, but it's these small details. And I feel like we've built a community, and for me, that's most important. You know, you see the same faces every Saturday. People are hyped about it when there's no shows going on. So I mean, there's so much that goes into a residency. And even still, you know, it's been, well, we're going on 5 years now, well, with COVID in the middle, but we're learning something new every week, you know, even in terms of production. I go to the club and I'm like, well, this looks good. What is this? You know, and every week we're tweaking, we're adjusting, you know, just trying to evolve in whatever space it is, whether it's the lineup, the artwork, you know, performers, everything. I mean, there's so much, and we're lucky though, I will say, especially, you know, with High, they're the best team in the world. I mean, they were just voted #1 club in the world, and there is a reason for it. Like they're a machine. The way they operate, it's unmatched.
They're a good crew. Yeah, I guess that's the thing, is like when it must be very different. And I kind of want to know from, did the lights just go? I think it's just starting to get really dark in the UK.
It's that time of night.
The difference between working with a big artist and a developing artist, right? What do you prefer?
It's hard to say because they both have their pros and cons. I think it's cool with the developing artist because there's less, I don't want to say pressure because that's not it, but less expectation. And with that, you have more freedom to try and get creative and, you know, think outside the box. You know, with the bigger artists, it's more of a machine at that point because, the actual general operation is working and whatever we're doing is right, I guess. Yeah. So it's more of these things that pop up along the way. So it's hard to say. I mean, I also love the fact that with a smaller artist, like, I'll never forget Themba's first headline show here in New York. We sold out, and that feeling, walking on stage and you're like, all right, we can bring people just with his name, it's okay. Yeah. It's such a cool feeling. Yeah.
What's the process with that though, for you? Okay. So you're, as a manager, let's just say for Themba, books a headline show in New York. Mm-hmm. What do you then do as a manager? Because I know what you do, but I'm trying to get at, like, to kind of teach other people what you do, and kind of the process of, it's not as easy as it is as you just put a show on and turn up. So, like, what is the process?
So we always, of course, have to find an announcement plan, what the artwork will look like, booking support acts when it's our own headline show, trying to find local press and media that will cover it, or, want to do an interview with him ahead of it. And then I am super anal about this. I don't know if every manager is like this, but I'm obsessive with numbers. Like, promoters probably hate me because I'm always asking for ticket counts. I'm always asking, are ads running properly? Is there something we can be doing more? I never want an artist to go and feel like the show wasn't a smash. Yeah. So for me, it's like just getting super involved, and I do think I have a very hands-on approach. Not to say that I'm doing something, outside the box, but a lot of managers, I think, they do go with the flow, and I don't know, we just want excellence, and we'll push in any means we can to get there.
No, I think that's really important because it actually shows as well. And I think unless somebody has like a standout hit, it's a process, it's a journey to build an artist. And I don't necessarily think that having a standout hit is actually the way to go to start a career. I think maybe long term down the road.
Yeah.
But I think growing a fan base on just good music.
Yeah. And people can expect something, Exactly. Like, you have to build that identity.
Yeah. I think it's really important. Have you worked with anybody that is just had a straight up standout hit and then their career goes like that? Because I feel like all of the artists you work with have always just built foundations, because Black Coffee's been doing it for years.
Not really, although let's see. So Sona, who's actually Black Coffee's son, he's starting to tour a bit more now, and he was just on Drake's album. So imagine, he's never released a record in his life, and he's on Drake's album. So let's see. We got a lot of booking requests in the last few weeks, so I'll come back to you on that one.
That's mental.
Yeah.
How old is he?
It's a really good one too. He's 22. Yeah, the future.
That's like what did you think of Drake's album?
I mean, of course, it's
the Sona record's the best record ever.
Are they watching right now? But no, I think it was such a great time for dance music, especially going back to what we were saying earlier about our worlds colliding and people taking risks. And, Black Coffee was there from the inception of the album. And, he had gone off to a studio session with Drake for a week in Turks and Caicos, and they kind of built the foundation there. And then, Drake really wanted to get more into our world and see what we do and invite artists to come collaborate. So, there was Gordo, there was the Kind Music guys, Ryex is on the album as well. I think it's a big moment for us. I know obviously, Swedish House Mafia and The Weeknd had done it before, but I feel like that taps a little bit more into that kind of commercial lane, if you will. And I feel like it gives, I don't want to say we're in the underground world, because we're not, we sit somewhere in between both worlds, but I feel like it gives...
If you're getting Grammys and you're selling you're not in the underground world at all. Like, no. let's be realistic. Like, I'm not in the underground world, and I sell not even half as many tickets.
But you're the same too, you sit in between those pockets. Like, you're not commercial, but you're not underground, you know, you sit somewhere in between. So I think, it was a big statement for artists like yourself and, you know, artists that have these ambitions to do something new, take that leap of faith. I mean, that was the most exciting part for me. And I think it's going to open a lot of doors for people and artists. And we're excited to see where this expands too, you know, like the album is just the beginning of a story that's to come with Drake and his team. And I'm excited to see. I mean, imagine 2 weeks ago, Rampa and Me dropped the Drake song at Circo Loco in the Garden. You know, you're at Circo Loco hearing Drake. This is crazy.
Yeah. It's I'm not, if I'm honest, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And
fair enough.
Like, like we're all allowed our own opinions. Like, I feel I'm really excited for the scene. I'm really excited for how it speaks to the industry. I think it's very important. Like Beyonce's new record as well. Like it's practically an old 90s MK record. It's fucking amazing. And I really respect that. But I think for me, for the Drake's album, I didn't know it was going to happen. So I had no expectations. No
one did.
Yeah.
We barely did.
Yeah, which is, I think that speaks a million words for the industry. And I know it's Drake. I know he can do what the fuck he wants. He can fart and it will be a big hit, if you know what I mean. But I think being able to just drop an album without talking about it is really special.
Totally. Even for us, it was something different, you know?
Yeah. I wouldn't advise it.
You know, well, there is no press plan. Like, press is just going to come. It's fine.
Yeah, which I think I don't know. Can you do that if you're a developing artist? I don't know.
It's tricky. It's really tricky. I mean, the thing too is, you know, he automatically gets the editorial support from Apple, Spotify, Deezer, whatever the platforms are, Amazon. You know, and as an emerging artist, you know this playlist pushes everything. You know, if you don't get visibility on playlists, then
you're fucked.
Your numbers, it's the sad reality. You know, there's so much great music out there that just doesn't see the light of day because of that, because of these algorithms that go on
and the people at the top. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm not complaining about it because I've been fortunate enough to have enough support over the years, but the industry is really gatekept by 20 people.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't think that's a healthy thing, but also being in the industry, it is what it is and it's never going to change. It's always been like that. And I don't think you can ever change it. So
we're working on something.
Yeah.
I can't share much now, but
tell me after.
We're forward thinking.
but I think like it's also like you just have to do the best of what you can do. And I just had a podcast before you, but it's like there's so much luck involved in this.
Oh yeah.
Like you can
There's no rhyme or reason half the time.
You can be the hardest working person and still not get anywhere for so long. And then you'll do something that you're like, fuck it, let's just do it. And then it's the biggest thing you've ever done. Yeah,
it's true. It hits you when you least expect it, I think.
Yeah, totally. I want to go back to the record stuff. And how do you measure success of a record as a manager?
It's a tricky one. You know, I'm very obsessed with numbers, but numbers don't mean everything. I had this conversation earlier, you know, certain artists are like, all right, well, I want to release a 20-minute song on Spotify.
Yeah.
That performs like shit on Spotify. But if it's something you believe in and it's something that can push the culture forward and you want to release it, I say go for it, you know? But in terms of success, I mean, it's hard, especially, you know, coming out of this COVID world, it's a little bit more manageable, you know, but imagine we're dropping an album during COVID. No DJs are playing the music. No one cares about it. You know, how do you get that visibility? And I think that opened our eyes up a lot because a lot of the success is weighed on the support you have from other artists, you know,
massively.
Big or small, how much the record's played out in clubs, because at the end of the day, dance music, it's, of course people stream it, but it wasn't made for streaming.
No.
It's made to be blasted in a club.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky one though. I would say though, by support, especially, like, a track is really hot if you see all the top DJs playing it. Every video you see on Instagram. It's a tricky one though.
I think it's also changed after COVID, because I think pre-COVID it was like, maybe coming into COVID it was changing, but like there wasn't many records. I find because there's so much music now and every artist is making so much music that it's like, I want my record to be the biggest record. I want my record to do this. So it's like a lot of it's not even like, we're not even there's people that don't even post other people's records that they're playing. It might be the biggest record in their set, but they're not posting, they're not talking about it. And I think it's tough now. Even now, it's like tough. That I don't feel since COVID, I don't feel like there's been any records where everyone's playing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And I don't know why.
Got it.
I don't know why that is.
Where's the smash? We need another smash. Come on.
Pressure's on. Pressure's on. I did a Depeche Mode remix of Enjoy the Silence.
Sick.
Like I did it like last year and everyone is playing it at the moment. But it's like we can't even release it. We can't put it out. But of course it's Depeche Mode. Like of course people are gonna
never say never.
I agree with that, but when you're trying to deal with Depeche Mode, like we asked them if we could clear the publishing, and they were like, you have to get it resung, and I'm like,
oh my god,
artistically, like it's not Depeche Mode then, so it's not worth it. And then as they sent that, they also then sent a cease and desist, and we're like, just a heads up, if you do decide to release this is the cease and desist.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, it's tricky. We've gotten lucky on some. Like one of my proudest ones was Blondish did a cover for Foreigner.
Yeah.
I Want to Know What Love Is. And I happened to meet someone that did like their financial advising in Ibiza. And I'm like, hey, I need your help. And somehow we made it happen, But
I love that. Yeah.
You get lucky sometimes, but
you do. Like I had it with Hallelujah. I had it with Hallelujah, my record. Like,
oh yeah,
that was wild. And we nearly got sued. We had cease and desist sent to us. If anyone doesn't know, it's a sample of Candy Staten. And a certain record label had signed the master and we had it resung. But I ended up talking to Candy Staten's daughter. Like that's how I ended up getting around. Like,
wow.
It's just
sometimes it's the only way. You just have to find that weird one-off person,
Yeah, but I think that's the whole fun of it, right? If it was all easy, it wouldn't be worth it.
Totally. It's crazy too. It's such a fine line. Like I don't know sometimes how these guys get away with it because, releasing a cover is like technically okay, but it's such a fine line between what's a cover and, what's not.
Yeah.
Because people do get away with it. Sometimes I hear things and I'm like, you definitely didn't get the rights for this, but you
all the time.
Just barely get away with it.
Well, look at BB with Hanging Tree.
He's on fire, by the way.
Exactly. He's killing it. But there's been so many of those situations, right? Where you ask for forgiveness rather than, and I think there does come a point where you just have to ask for forgiveness and
hope for the best
and hope. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen?
Or hope no one hears it.
Yeah, but that's hope no one important hears it.
I don't condone that.
Every time I send Ryan a record with a sample and he's like, for fuck's sake, Will, like, why?
Not again.
Why do you do this to ourselves?
Themba has one coming out next week. Well, he did a cover of a Sting song, Fragile.
Yeah.
That was a tricky one too, but so cool. So happy we got to get that one over the line.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is like with this Depeche Mode, I could get it resung and I could pay somebody a lot of money that's very good and to get it done like 100%, so it sounds like them, and then we could probably release it. But then it's like, well, it kind of defeats the object. And also,
yeah, it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's just not the same. Maybe I'll just get you on it, Chrissy. You're going to sort
Let's
it.
go. Fun fact, I was in like all county choir. I was in the church choir.
I didn't mean you sing it. I meant you go and clear it.
Oh, no. I'm ready to sing.
Okay, you're on. Game on. So are you current? The company started.
Mm-hmm.
You're managing artists.
Mm-hmm.
You need staff.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
So we're actually a really small team, and everyone's always shocked when I tell them. So it started off as me and Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Sam also came with us from our old setup as well, and actually has been with Black Coffee even longer than myself. Mm-hmm. She's in South Africa, and was there from
day one.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like 7-8 years, something like that. And then it's just one other person with us. This girl, Amanda, who we brought on, who's handling bookings now, and she's killing it. But yeah, we're a super small team. Of course, we always have these conversations to expand, but I won't lie, it's really, really hard to find like-minded people that are just driven, because I feel like a lot of people get into this industry and they see it as the glitz and the glamour and the party, and that's not it.
And a load of money.
Yeah. Forget about it, right?
Yeah, like I think everyone thinks you're really rich and you're earning a fortune, and you're gonna go in and get
Here
paid
I
a
am
fortune.
sitting in the backyard of my 1-bedroom shoebox apartment in Brooklyn.
At least you got a fucking garden. You should be grateful.
I am. This is unheard of in New York.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's really hard to find people. And I'm very particular too, because I am a go-getter and I like things done a certain way. So,
but I think that's the reason why you're successful. And I think that's, if I was to say to anybody to like, if they wanted to go and work for you, like you have to be pretty much a little you and be willing to go, and you're willing. I remember when you moved to Ibiza and the amount of work that you were doing 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's the same for any artist. I don't think people realize how much hard work you have to put in to the craft.
No one realizes, everyone just thinks, we show up, stick your USBs in, play for 2 hours and leave. But no, it's way deeper than that. Sometimes you forget about yourself. That's my biggest obstacle, remembering I'm still human. I'm not a robot. Sometimes I also need to take a step back. And
how do you handle that?
I don't very well. Adam definitely helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I very easily get caught up in just the hustle and bustle. And I don't know if that's just the person I am, or a New Yorker, or the position I'm in, but I know I don't know when to pump the brakes, and it can be daunting at times, you also can't burn out, there's so many people depending on you to be there every day and to deliver, and it can get exhausting and sometimes mentally overwhelming. I used to really practice a lot of yoga and meditation, and admittedly, I've not been so great with that the last months. But yeah, pushing to get back in that space. But it's so important to be in a good headspace in this industry too. Like people don't remember mental health is also at the forefront of things, and it's really easy to get lost.
Super easy. How do you, as a manager, like this is the crazy thing as a manager, especially you, because I know how hard you work, but like I think some people find it easy to just go and switch off and kind of take time out and do their own thing. But also I know you don't. So, but as a manager, you're also looking after other artists, and you have to make sure they're in the correct. You don't have to make sure it sounds like you're babysitting, but you do as a role.
It's true. We joke that guys sometimes say like, "Okay, mom," like I'm like, "Did you bring your earplugs?"
Exactly.
Today?
Yeah. And I think, but how do you do that if you don't do it for yourself?
It's tricky. I mean, it really does come down to, I feel like I am sometimes like a road mom, you know. I feel like that motherly instinct inside of me is like, and this is just me as a person too. I always just put everyone else first. That's how I've been. That's how I was raised. And whether it's a good thing or not, I don't know. You know, at times I should worry about myself a little more. But it's good. You know, I have, the guys are always there to remind me, my fiance, my family, my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke, you know, Themba's like, what happens when you want to have a baby? Are you just going to forget about us? I'm like, don't worry. Like, I'll be upside down, like cradling the baby, you know, on a ball. Like, stopping's not an option, you know. I'm not done yet.
Do you want kids?
Yeah, for sure. Not yet. One thing at a time. I always joke, I'm like, I already have 3 kids, 2 South Africans and a Greek.
Which is mad because they're all older than you, right?
Yeah. And they all have kids, and it's funny though. I mean, you have to kind of play that mom figure too, in a sense. I feel like, you know, good managers, you have to have that relationship and also be able to have those tough talks, you know, like if you see your artist getting a little lost or they feel off, or, you know, I've had conversations like, are you doing okay? Are you feeling okay? Are you depressed? You know, is something bothering you? Because that reflects in their performances as well. And we're not robots. No. We all forget that. We all think we're invincible in this industry, but it's not true.
Do they ever say that to you?
Yes. Actually, the guys are good. Like, they'll say, oh, you're looking tired. Like, did you rest? And if I'm not well, they push me to take care of myself. Yeah. It's a good thing. I'm not sure all artists are like that, but I really say it proudly. Like, I have just amazing men before the artistry.
Well, I think that's the reason why as a team you guys work so well, because I think for me, I can only speak from experience, but my previous managers I didn't necessarily have that connection with. And I think a manager, although there's a job role name, a job name connected to that as a manager, it's kind of like the silent half of you. Yeah. And I think I talk to Ryan more than I talk to anybody in my life. Maybe I talk to my parents a bit more when I'm near them, but like when I'm not around them, I speak to Ryan more than my parents. And I think you have to have that relationship with your manager. I have friends that don't talk to their managers, and I'm like, that's just how.
No, and it has to be personal, you know, like, of course, when it's down to business, it's down to business, but I want to know if you're having a bad day. I want to know if your wife's giving you a headache, you know, I want to know all these things. I want to be able to help. Like, I joke sometimes, but I'm like, I'm also partially a therapist, you know, like I'm always here to talk, and you have to be, you know, you get so caught up and you forget about what's important. I think the pandemic helped a lot with that though, you know, reminding yourself like, all right, when the music stops, what's there? My family, my friends, you know, the roof over my head. We're so lucky, but we take it all for granted.
I think it's really nice though, because you bring this more female way of living, which is more feeling based, which I think it's very easy as guys to like not have that. And my mum's a therapist, so I was brought up talking about my feelings my whole life. But like, even working with Ryan, like Ryan's a fucking old agent. Like, agents, no disrespect to agents, you're all fucking machines. You're all machines. Check and run. Literally. And like, it's business. Like, it's strict business with agents. And although I have fucking great agents, like, it's still strict business, I feel. So even with Ryan, it's like, I push to kind of like get more out of him in that sense, because I think it's so important in a relationship to have that, not just as a working relationship, just as a friendship. Like, most of my good friends, we have deep conversations, really deep conversations about how we feel and how they feel and kind of think just life. And I think if you don't have that, there's a time limit to that relationship.
Definitely. Definitely. You have to have an open line of communication about everything, you know, the weirdest of things comes up, but
yeah,
that's another story
that we're not allowed to put in
for another day.
Are you spending much time in Ibiza this summer?
Yeah, so I'm basically doing like 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out,
Nice.
With all the wedding planning and all.
Yeah.
It's good too, you know, because also when you're on the island, you kind of lose focus on the global scheme of things. It's a fact.
Yeah.
You're there and all you see is Ibiza. That's it.
Well, I think also because Ibiza is 24/7, 7 days a week, it's actually really hard to focus on anything else because you just get trapped up in this tiny little island where the whole industry is at for a day a week. If you know what I mean. And
no, for sure. It's like, it's almost like you live a parallel life. Like I always say this to Adam when I come home, like it feels like a different world, you know? Even just the way I'm treated and the way I'm like respected there. It's like, I don't know. It's totally different.
Well, I think you got to think like Ibiza, although it has such a big weight on our industry, it's one of the biggest influences in our industry, I would say, in the underground electronic music industry. We forget that there's a bigger world out there.
Yeah.
Right? And when you are technically working with one of the biggest artists on the island, if not one of the biggest night on the island, you're fucking royalty, if you know what I mean. And then when you come off that, it's like, I'm not that in New York. I'm not that anywhere. I'm not.
Reality slaps you in the face.
Or you get on that fucking EasyJet flight and you're like, damn, what is life?
Go from jet to whaling real quick.
Literally. But I think that's really important to be able to experience that in life because it makes you grow as a human being and realize what actually matters in life.
Definitely.
How is it with working with artists that are earning extreme amounts of money and do you believe in spending money to create comfort, to make that artist's life easier?
Definitely. I think it's something that took a while for me to process. I won't lie. Like I'm very frugal with numbers and I like to protect the guys and, you know, make them as much as I can. But then taking a step back, I think, you know, seeing Black Coffee again, to use him as an example, but his touring schedule is crazy, you know, like he has to fly on a jet or else he won't make it to all of his gigs, you know, and, you know, he should stay in a suite. He deserves to, you know, he worked for that. And for him to perform at his peak, he should treat himself as best as he can, you know, and I think that goes for all the guys. And we always try to take that into mind. You know, I think a lot of times teams kind of forget, you know, at the end of the day, you guys are getting on flights day in and day out. You're not eating well, you know, you're not resting well. Like you guys have it really tough. You know, people think again, the glitz and glam, but it's not that as a touring artist. So I think when you can get those moments of, you know, self-care or love, you know, it's important when you can.
No, I think you're right. I think I can forget that as well occasionally, and you're like penny pinching and you're like, well, like fuck's sake, dude, like go and spend $500 if you have to get a nice hotel for a night. Like it's expensive, but fuck it. Like, even if you can't afford it, go and enjoy it because it's going to come back.
At the end of the day, if you're staying in a shit hotel and flying on a super low cost airline and, you know, you're going to go to your gig, you're not going to be as positive. You're not going to deliver. At the end of the day, like you can't just show up and perform. You know, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of mental strength and physical strength. And like to have the machine operating properly, I feel like there should be no limits.
No, I agree. And I also think there's a limit at the beginning when you're an artist. I want to get your thoughts on this. As a manager, you take on a new artist that's not full-time in music. They have a job outside of the music, which is very common. Okay. I say working that job as long as you possibly can to afford you to take on really shit gigs and kind of grow as an artist. What's your thoughts?
See, it's a tricky one because I feel like to be at the top, you also need to give all of your time and effort. So, you know, if you're not able to spend those long nights in the studio and, you know, be ready to go, I feel like that's the only reason you shouldn't. But I definitely agree with you. You know, at the end of the day, you need to feed yourself, you need to get somewhere. And obviously when you're starting out too, you have to eat a little shit, you know. It's a part of the game. Even as a bigger artist, you know, sometimes you have to do things that you're not super comfortable with, but there's a different return. So yeah, it's kind of a tricky one. I think if you can focus on your craft and bettering yourself, then by all means. Yeah. But yeah.
I guess it just depends how much, not of a hard worker, because that makes me sound like a dick, but like how much you're willing to put into it. Because
well, exactly. Like, are you going to go to work and then come home and spend 10 hours in the studio? Sure.
Exactly.
But like, are you going to come home and, you know, go sleep on the couch? Then
and I think that depends on who as a human being you are, and not how much you want it, because I think there's people that want it just as much that aren't putting the hours in because they're just not that type of person that can put the hours in, right? Totally. Like not every manager's like you.
Everyone has their own flow.
I guess it's just down to the individual, really.
Yeah.
Maybe. What have you got coming up? You've got a wedding coming up, and you decided to have your wedding on the worst weekend in the year. Like, let's talk about this.
I mean, is it the worst or the best? Because I have all my guys here touring in America, and it's on.
I guess it's the best.
I looked at the Circo Loco lineup. I'm like, all right, all my friends are playing. We're good. Hopefully they just have a late set time.
Are they playing? You're having it in New York. Where are you getting married?
In Long Island City.
Yeah.
So it's in New York. Let's see what surprises come up. Everyone, like all the Circo Loco guys are like, you're going to come in your wedding dress, right? I'm like, probably.
Are you actually going to go?
I don't know. Let's see.
Surely not.
Let's see.
Do you have any artists playing that night?
Maybe.
Shh. Fuck's sake. I don't know where I'm at actually. Halloween. What is it? The Saturday you're getting married?
Nowhere. Friday.
Yeah. Friday. Let me tell you. We just did October.
Sun's like hitting me at another angle now.
You got that New York sun as well. It's hot.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I'm in. San Francisco. San Francisco.
Yeah.
Not in New York.
Just a coast away.
I know. That's going to be amazing though.
Yeah, it's so much planning. I didn't think it through so much. I'm like, oh, well, I can't get married during the summer, of course, because that's peak season. But I'm like right after the summer. But I didn't think, oh, well, I'm going to be planning a wedding in the middle of peak season, you know?
Yeah.
So, and of course we don't have wedding planners because I need to do everything my way.
Of course. If you ever had a wedding planner, I would be shocked anyway. I'd be like, who even are you?
Yeah, no way.
You're the best wedding planner out there. So what's the point of having a wedding?
I'm like, I do this for a living. I can plan my own party.
Exactly. It's not that hard. And also the fact that you manage like 3-4 of the biggest artists in the industry is pretty easy to like.
Yeah, we have a festival lineup. We're good.
You literally do.
Come down for some black coffee, some Martinez brothers.
Yeah. It's amazing what the Martinez brothers have done.
I'm so proud of them. But, they're good friends, of course, and growing up in New York and seeing them evolve, and sometimes we have these moments where it's like, wow, we're both, well, all three of us, climbing together, and I'm so proud of them to take on this residency this summer. It's such a big move, and what they're doing musically, and they're really just chasing after what they've wanted for so long.
Is it DC 10, the residency?
At High, actually.
What day?
Yeah, they're doing Tuesdays at High.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so it just started 2 weeks ago, and it's been a smash so far. So,
well, when you were talking about Virgil, I feel like this is my perception, they're almost like the closest next thing.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. Not where they're making fashion that I'm aware of, but like they're very fashionable guys. They have this like swagger about them that
New Yorkers.
Yeah, no one else has that. And they have just this like, they've never had really a hit record. Like they had some big records, but like HD Izu obviously was huge when it came out. Like fuck, I played that in New York the other night.
Everyone's like, people are still playing it. You know, that's when you know.
Yeah, people like I drag that out of the record box occasionally, and it's so good. But like what they've built is as a community, and I'm not too sure how they've done it really. Like I don't think you could
authenticity, honestly. You know, they're just so purely themselves. Like what you see is what you get, you know? And I think that's what it is.
How do you put that in an artist as a manager?
You don't. No. I think it has to be there, you know? Like even sometimes with the guys, I'm like, you know, be more yourself. Like actually you do this really well. Like you're just authentically you, especially like on socials, you know, you're yourself. And I feel like a lot of artists struggle to do that. It's like, it's a machine. They're just, you know, they can't get out of their artist mind or their business mind. And I always try to remind the guys, like, people care about you as a human, you know, people want to see what you're having for dinner, or what your kids are doing at their school play, you know, like fans love that. And like you said, to be able to build a community, that's the most important thing, to have those people that are just super loyal to you. And the bros definitely have that. That's for sure.
They do.
Wherever you go in the world, you see the same people flying out with them.
Yeah, I like that. And I think there comes a point, there comes a level of when you can do that, right? Like when you're earning enough money and you can fly people out with you and things like that. Because majority of people can't afford to fucking fly with you every weekend and things like that.
Of course.
So like there's luxuries that you can eventually do that. But I still think that there's a level of authenticity from the beginning that it's just like, it's just wow.
Yeah, I mean, you see videos of Chris and Steve playing like 15 years old at Pasha, like Stevie's still in glasses, you know, Chris has got his snapback, like glued to his head, you know, like, and that was them then, and they've evolved and they're still themselves. And that's the coolest thing for me. You know, a lot of artists too, once they do start to see the limelight a little bit more, they change, you know, it's kind of a natural progression for a lot of people, I would say. So it's nice to see that they've really, you know, stayed true to themselves and always looking out for family. And
well, I think I think it's what you got into it for, what you get into it for. And I think sometimes when it's a business for you, which it is for a lot of us, it is for all of us, at the end of the day, it's still the business. But like when you get into it and you look at it as a business and then you start seeing serious numbers come in, you're like, well, we need to hunker down on this, but then forgetting what actually you're built from. And I think you can see that. But I think what you've done with Black Coffee is you've all kept it very authentic as well. And although you go and do a record with David Guetta, which may not feel authentic as on paper, but when it's the way it's perceived, the way it's kind of presented to the world is a very authentic thing.
Totally.
And I think you can do that as an artist. You can go and do a record with somebody, or you can go and go on a show with somebody, and you can be on a lineup with somebody that might not be what you are, but because you're good mates, or but because you respect each other so much, or because something is connecting you with that person, it feels right. And it's okay to talk about it.
And music should see no limits, you know? That's what I hate the most about this industry. It's like everyone just tries to box themselves as a tech house DJ, a techno DJ, Afro house, whatever it is. But why should there be limits? You know, if you're making music and playing music that brings joy to people and unites people, like that's what this industry is built on, you know? Like
I can't do it. I can't do it. It like,
no.
That, I think for me, like when I was in the Dirty Bird camp, like it was kind of like that for me, and I loved it for a period. It served a huge purpose for me. But then it got to the point where I was like, I don't just want to write this music for the rest of my career.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It doesn't allow me to do that. So I need to step out to grow as a human being, let alone as an artist, because otherwise I'm always going to be the mid-tier of someone, right?
Yeah.
Of someone else's show, and I have to adhere by someone else's show.
Yeah, there should be no limits.
No, there really shouldn't. There really shouldn't, Chrissy. We've just done an hour and 20 minutes. I think we should wrap this up because I know we could carry on talking.
Go on for days.
Yeah, literally.
I know I'm starting to get a sunburn.
I guess I ask people at the end of this podcast a question, and it feels only right to ask you it. What life advice would you give somebody right now?
I'm going to give advice that I should probably give myself as well, but
it's fine. You can talk to yourself.
Don't lose sight on the important things in life. You know, everything can stop in an instant, and don't forget, you know, what's always there. Like I said earlier, when the music stops, and obviously this isn't just for the music industry, but when the whole world stops, what's there for you still, and what keeps you fueled as a human, don't forget that, you know, never let go of that.
I love that. I would say, how can people follow you? Because I always say this to artists and listen to your music, but I guess you don't really want that.
Watch lots of stuff about my artists.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Like, I've literally waited 2.5 years to have you on. I'm
so happy we finally got to do this. Yeah, for real.
It's been amazing. Thank you for coming on. Keep safe. I love you lots.
Thanks for having me. Love you.
And I'll see you. I'll probably see you in Ibiza before I see you in America.
Definitely.
Cool. Peace out. Love you. And that's a wrap. I love that podcast. It was a really good one. Thank you to Cristiana for listening, for coming on and talking. Thank you for all of you listen. Please go share. Please subscribe. Please tell your mates about it. I'd love you forever. Till next time, people.